The Phantom Strike Captain Elena Reyes stood silently on the bridge of her ship, watching the enemy fleet through the view screen. The Dominion warships moved like predators through space, their hulls gleaming with the arrogance of 1,000 conquered worlds. 12 massive vessels, each one capable of turning a planet to ash. They had come to deliver humanity's death sentence, but they had no idea they were already surrounded. Elena's ship, the Wraith, hung invisible in the void. Around her, 36 other human vessels waited in perfect silence, their advanced cloaking systems making them ghosts in the darkness of space. For 300 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. 3 centuries of secret research, hidden construction, and careful planning. The Dominion Empire thought humans were nothing more than primitive creatures who had barely learned to leave their home planet. Today, that assumption would cost them everything. The bridge was eerily quiet except for the soft hum of life support systems. Elena's crew moved with practiced efficiency, their faces calm despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. Lieutenant Commander Jake Foster monitored the tactical display, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. Dr. Sarah Kim worked at her science station, making final adjustments to the quantum field generators that kept their ship invisible. Communications Officer Maria Santos listened to alien chatter, translating the overconfident boasts of Dominion commanders who believed victory was already theirs. Through her neural link with Admiral Marcus Chen back on Earth, Elena could feel the weight of humanity's hopes pressing down on her shoulders. The Admiral's voice whispered in her mind, steady and reassuring despite the tension they all felt. All ships report ready, Elena. The trap is set. These aliens have terrorized the Dao galaxy for millennia, enslaving every species they encounter. It ends today. Elena nodded, though no one could see the gesture. She had studied the Dominion Empire her entire life, learning their tactics, their weaknesses, their brutal history of conquest. They ruled through fear and overwhelming force, crushing any resistance before it could organize. But they had never faced an enemy they couldn't see coming. They had never fought humans who had spent generations preparing for war. The lead Dominion ship was a behemoth called the Devastator, commanded by Thane Korthak, one of the Empire's most ruthless generals. Elena had memorized his service record, a catalog of worlds burned and civilizations extinguished. Korthak was known for his brutality, but also for his tactical brilliance. He was exactly the kind of enemy that made this operation so dangerous. If anyone could adapt to fighting invisible ships, it would be him. Through the ship's sensors, Elena watched as the Dominion fleet took position around Earth's moon. Their weapons began charging, preparing to demonstrate their power by destroying humanity's largest orbital installation. 50,000 people lived and worked on Luna Base, scientists and engineers who had dedicated their lives to pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. The aliens planned to murder them all as an opening statement, a way to show Earth what happened to species that refused to submit. Dr. Sarah Kim looked up from her station, her face glowing in the light of her displays. Captain, all stealth systems are operating at maximum efficiency. Their sensors show empty space in every direction. We are completely invisible to their technology. Elena smiled grimly. Sarah had spent 20 years developing the quantum distortion fields that made their ships undetectable. It was technology based on principles the Dominion had never even discovered, let alone learned to counter. The alien fleet commander's voice echoed across space, transmitted on frequencies meant to reach every human receiver in the solar system. The translation was cold and mechanical, but the malice behind it was unmistakable. Primitive humans of the third planet, I am Commander Thane Korthak of the 7th Dominion Fleet. Your species has been judged unworthy of independence. You will surrender immediately and prepare for processing into the Empire's slave populations. To demonstrate our power, we will now destroy your moon colony. Witness the price of defiance. Elena felt rage burn through her veins as she watched the alien weapons reach full charge. These creatures had spent thousands of years treating thinking beings like property, crushing civilizations and snuffing out the hopes of countless species. They had built their empire on suffering and death, and they expected humanity to simply bow down and accept the same fate. They had no idea what kind of enemy they were facing. All ships, Elena whispered into her communicator, her voice carrying to every invisible human vessel surrounding the alien fleet. This is Reyes. You know what they've done to other species. You know what they plan to do to us. Our families, our children, our entire civilization hangs in the balance. These aliens think we're helpless prey. Let's show them what humans do to predators who threaten our own. The Dominion ships began their attack run toward Luna Base, their massive forms moving with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. Their shields hummed with energy. Their weapons gleamed with deadly promise. Commander Korthak was probably already planning his victory speech, already imagining the praise he would receive from his superiors for another successful conquest. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of human history on her shoulders. Every ancestor who had fought for freedom, every generation that had struggled against oppression, every dreamer who had looked up at the stars and imagined a better future, they were all here with her now, their spirits flowing through her veins, their determination strengthening her resolve. "Dr. Kim," she said softly, "prepare to drop cloak on my mark. All weapon systems armed and ready. Target their command ships. First, we hit them fast and hard before they can react or call for help." Sarah's fingers moved across her controls, preparing to shut down the quantum fields that kept them hidden. Around the Dominion fleet, 37 human ships made identical preparations. In seconds, they would go from invisible ghosts to deadly reality, appearing like vengeful spirits from the darkness of space. The alien weapons were almost ready to fire. Luna Base sat helpless in their crosshairs, its inhabitants unaware that death was reaching out for them. Elena could see families sleeping peacefully in their homes, scientists working late in their laboratories, children playing in the stations, recreational areas. In their ignorance, the Dominion had given humanity the perfect gift: motivation. Nothing made humans more dangerous than threats to their loved ones. "All ships," Elena commanded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. "Drop cloak and engage. Show these aliens what happens when they threaten human beings." Across the dark battlefield, 37 points of light suddenly blazed into existence. The human fleet materialized from nothing, their weapons already locked onto alien targets, their crews ready for the fight of their lives. The Dominion commanders had perhaps 3 seconds to register what was happening before the universe exploded around them. Elena watched with fierce satisfaction as her ship's main gun fired, sending a stream of concentrated energy into the heart of Korthak's flagship. The alien's shields flared and died under the unexpected assault. His massive warship, pride of the Dominion fleet, cracked open like an egg, spilling atmosphere and debris into the vacuum. Around her, the rest of the human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Alien ships that had seemed invincible moments before were suddenly burning and dying, their crews screaming in panic as they faced an enemy they had never imagined could exist. The trap had been sprung perfectly, catching the Dominion forces completely off guard. But even as she watched enemy ships explode, Elena knew this was just the beginning. The Dominion Empire controlled thousands of worlds and commanded millions of warships. This small fleet was just the opening move in what would be the greatest war in galactic history. Humanity had revealed itself at last, stepping out of the shadows to challenge an empire that had ruled unchallenged for millennia. The aliens had expected to find primitive humans cowering in fear. Instead, they had found ghosts with the firepower of gods, emerging from nothingness to deliver death and destruction. Commander Korthak's dying scream echoed across space as his ship broke apart, a sound that would soon be heard across the entire Dominion Empire. Elena smiled as she watched the last alien vessel explode in a shower of sparks and flame. Phase 1 was complete. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in terms that even the Dominion couldn't ignore. The real war was about to begin, and for the first time in 3,000 years the Empire would face an enemy that refused to kneel. Empire's fall 6 months after the destruction of the Seventh Fleet, the Dominion Empire was in chaos. From his crystal throne in the heart of the capital world, Emperor Zaxxon stared at reports that filled him with an emotion he had not felt in centuries: fear. Across his vast domain, Human ships appeared from nowhere to strike at military installations, trade routes, and communication hubs. They came like phantoms in the night, invisible until the moment they attacked, vanishing again before reinforcements could arrive. The Emperor was ancient even by Dominion standards, having ruled for over 2,000 years. His crystalline form pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that reflected his inner turmoil. He had built his empire through ruthless expansion, crushing every species that dared resist his rule. Never before had he faced an enemy that could not be seen, could not be tracked, could not be cornered and destroyed. General Lisa Torres smiled as she read the latest intelligence reports from deep inside Dominion space. The aliens were pulling, ships from their outer colonies consolidating their forces to hunt for the human ghost fleet. It was exactly what she had hoped they would do. Every ship they moved toward the inner systems was a ship that couldn't patrol their borders or suppress rebellions among their slave worlds. Already, 3 subject species had risen in revolt, inspired by humanity's example. Lisa stood in the command center buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by holographic displays showing the current positions of every human vessel in the galaxy. The stealth technology that made their ships invisible also made them perfect intelligence gatherers. Dominion commanders found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Admiral Marcus Chen appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from his flagship somewhere in the Centauri system. His weathered face showed the strain of commanding humanity's greatest military campaign, but his eyes burned with fierce determination. Lisa, our scouts report massive fleet movements throughout Dominion space. They're gathering everything they have for one final push to find us. Count how many ships? Lisa asked, though she already suspected the answer would be staggering. Our best estimate is 15,000 vessels, possibly more. They're stripping defenses from every colony world, calling in ships from the furthest reaches of their territory. It's the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Lisa nodded grimly. 15,000 ships against humanity's fleet of 200. On paper, it should have been a massacre, but numbers meant nothing if the enemy couldn't find you to fight. What's our next move, Admiral? Marcus smiled, and Lisa recognized the expression. It was the same look her grandfather had worn when he told stories about the old wars on Earth. The face of a soldier who had found a way to turn desperate odds into victory. We're going to give them exactly what they want, Lisa. We're going to let them find us. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Dr. Sarah Kim worked frantically in her mobile laboratory aboard the research ship Innovation. Around her, dozens of scientists and engineers labored to perfect humanity's greatest secret weapon. The quantum cloaking technology that made their ships invisible was just the beginning. What they were building now would change the nature of warfare forever. Sarah's fingers flew across holographic controls as she made final adjustments to the prototype device. It looked deceptively simple, just a sphere of crystalline material surrounded by exotic energy fields. But the mathematics behind it represented the culmination of human scientific achievement, a technology so advanced that even humanity barely understood how it worked. Dr. Kim called out her assistant, Dr. James Liu, from across the laboratory. The field generators are stable. We're ready for the final test. Sarah took a deep breath and activated the device. Around them, reality seemed to shimmer for a moment, as if the universe itself was uncertain what it was seeing. Then the readings on their instruments went wild, showing energy signatures that should have been impossible according to every known law of physics. It works, Sarah whispered, hardly believing her own words. We can actually do this. What they had created was more than just a cloaking device. It was a way to manipulate space-time itself, to make multiple copies of the same ship exist in different locations simultaneously. To any enemy sensors, a single human vessel would appear to be dozens of ships attacking from every direction at once. It was an illusion, but an illusion so perfect that it might as well be reality. Back on the Dominion capital world, Emperor Zaxxon was meeting with his war council, a gathering of the Empire's most powerful military leaders. The crystalline chamber, where they met, had witnessed the planning of 1,000 conquests, but never had the atmosphere been so tense with uncertainty and fear. Overlord Vex, the Empire's greatest strategic mind, gestured toward the holographic display showing human attack patterns. My Emperor, these creatures fight unlike any enemy we have encountered. They refuse to engage in direct battle, preferring hit-and-run tactics that maximize our losses while minimizing their own. Our traditional tactics are useless against such an approach. Then we adapt, Zaxxon replied, his voice carrying the authority of millennia. We have more ships than they could possibly possess. We will flood every system with our vessels until there is nowhere for them to hide. With respect, my lord, Vex continued carefully, that strategy requires us to leave our colony worlds defenseless. Already several subject species have attempted rebellion. If we withdraw more forces, let them rebel. Zaxxon's form flared with angry bioluminescence. Once we crush these invisible humans, we will have all the time we need to deal with our slaves. But first, we must eliminate this threat to our supremacy. What the Emperor didn't know was that his every word was being transmitted to human intelligence by a small device hidden in the chamber's walls. Dr. David Park, humanity's master spy, had spent 20 years infiltrating Dominion society, slowly working his way into positions where he could gather vital intelligence. His reports had been crucial to every human victory in the war. The final phase of humanity's plan began 3 weeks later. Admiral Chen's fleet, still invisible to alien, sensors took position in the Kepler Nebula, a region of space known for its sensor-disrupting properties. There they waited as the largest military force in galactic history converged on their location. Elena Reyes watched from the bridge of her ship as the Dominion Armada emerged from hyperspace. 15,000 vessels stretched across space like a metal constellation, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing entire star systems. At their head flew the Emperor's personal flagship, the Eternal Dominion, a ship so massive it could have been mistaken for a small moon. All ships, this is Admiral Chen, came the voice over their communications system. You know what we're fighting for today. Every human who has ever lived, every human who will ever be born, depends on what we do in the next few hours. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and facing impossible odds. In other words, it's a typical day for the human race. Elena smiled despite her nervousness. That was exactly the kind of humor that had carried humanity through every crisis in their history. They had survived ice ages and plagues, world wars, and near extinctions, always finding a way to laugh in the face of doom. Activate the new systems, Chen commanded. Let's show these aliens what human ingenuity can accomplish. Across the human fleet, Dr. Sarah Kim's reality-bending devices came online. Suddenly, what had been 200 ships became what appeared to be 20,000. The quantum field generators created perfect duplicates of each vessel, indistinguishable from the real thing to any sensor system the Dominion possessed. Emperor Zaxxon himself was commanding the alien fleet from his throne, aboard the Eternal Dominion, when his sensors suddenly registered a massive human armada materializing from the nebula. He felt his ancient heart skip several beats. How many ships? He demanded of his officers. Scans show. This is impossible, my lord. Our sensors detect over 20,000 human vessels. They must have been building ships for centuries. Zaxxon stared at the tactical display in shock. 20,000 ships would make humanity one of the greatest naval powers in galactic history. How had such a primitive species managed to hide such a massive fleet? How had his intelligence services failed so completely? The truth was simpler and more terrifying than he could have imagined. Humanity hadn't built 20,000 ships. They had built something far more dangerous. The technology to make their enemies see what they wanted them to see. It was a perfect psychological weapon, designed to exploit the one weakness every tyrant possessed: the fear of losing power. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. To the Dominion forces, it appeared they were facing a vast armada that attacked from every direction simultaneously. Ships seemed to be destroyed only to reappear moments later in new locations. Weapons fire came from empty space, and targeting systems locked onto phantoms that vanished the moment they fired. Elena coordinated her squadron's attacks with deadly precision, watching as confused alien commanders ordered their ships to fire on what their sensors insisted were enemy vessels, only to see their weapons pass harmlessly through illusions. Meanwhile, the real human ships struck from unexpected angles, their actual firepower magnified by the chaos and confusion their technology created. Within hours, the greatest military force in galactic history was in full retreat. Ships fled in every direction as panic spread through the Dominion ranks like wildfire. The Emperor himself abandoned his flagship, escaping in a small courier vessel as the eternal Dominion broke apart under sustained human fire. But the real victory wasn't won in space. As news of the defeat spread throughout the Empire, rebellions erupted on every world. Species that had been enslaved for millennia suddenly saw that their oppressors could be beaten. The psychological impact of the battle was far more devastating than any physical damage humanity could have inflicted. Ambassador David Park stood before the ruins of the Dominion Senate, reading from a document that would reshape galactic civilization. Around him, representatives from dozens of species listened as he announced the terms of humanity's peace treaty. The Empire would be dissolved, its military forces disbanded, and its former slave worlds granted immediate independence. It was not just victory, it was liberation for half the galaxy. Emperor Zaxxon, ancient ruler of a fallen empire, knelt in defeat before creatures he had dismissed as primitive animals. His crystalline form had lost its luminescent glow, dimmed by the weight of absolute defeat. "How?" he whispered. "How did we lose to such a young species?" Elena Reyes, now promoted to admiral for her role in the war's decisive battle, looked down at the fallen emperor with something approaching pity. "You made the same mistake every tyrant makes," she said quietly. "You assumed that being powerful meant being invincible. You forgot that the greatest strength comes not from ruling others, but from fighting for something you believe in." As humanity emerged from the shadows to take its place among the great powers of the galaxy, one truth became clear to every species that witnessed their rise. The universe had gained a new guardian, a species that would never again allow bullies and tyrants to prey upon the weak. The age of human isolation was over, and the age of human leadership had begun. The Ghost Fleet had accomplished more than just military victory. They had proven that courage, ingenuity, and determination could triumph over any odds. Humanity had not just saved itself, it had saved the galaxy from an empire built on cruelty and oppression, and in doing so, they had shown every species in the cosmos what it truly meant to be free.